This is your Daily Mojo Extra.
All right, it's time for another Maui update with our very own Keke Aki, and it's more of a conversation, just back and forth, throwing ideas out there, and tossing around what we've each learned, and mainly what she has learned, and just maybe looking for some reason as to why things are happening the way that they are there. You decide.
I wanted to address that there was some issues with the number. The number that the governor gave, 97, sounds ridiculous. This is a huge town. I looked it up, and the visitors to Maui in just the month of July was 294,000 people.
Good grief.
And even a number, let's say 1%. 1% would be somewhere around 2,900, right? Thank you. 29% visiting Lahaina. I mean, not to be, as you said, indelicate, but some of those people probably passed away. So
Right.
How can they have these numbers when they really don't know who or where they came from? So 97 seems exaggerated.
Well, yeah.
So
it was 115 a week or so ago. There are one of the stories from over there from Civil Beat is talking about the homeless population. This is from August 24th, and apparently in Lahaina there are a significant number of unhoused people. I think they said it was something like 120. So, I mean, that doesn't seem like a whole bunch, but it's obviously something. Where do those people, how do they fit in? And these numbers, they, as you said, they keep jumping around, which again makes everybody wonder, why can't the government seem to get their crap together and come out with an authentic number? You hearing anything about that?
Yeah. Gosh. They found a way to get around, and it's not a lie. It's not a lie. Think of it this way. If you have 10 chickens,
Okay.
1 is orange, 9 are white. You go to the farm and you say, you're looking for chickens. And they say, okay, we have some over here. And you look over, and they only say, I'm looking for that orange chicken. I want that orange chicken. So you make the connection. You claim the orange chicken. So then when you leave, they say, oh, they had 1 orange chicken. So everyone is thinking they have 1 orange chicken, but actually they had 10 chickens, 9 were white. So that's what they're doing. They're eliminating the ones that the unfortunate remains that people can't identify or haven't identified. They're not counting them. So it's only the verified through FEMA, through the missing persons report, and with the DNA swabs. So all these boxes need to be ticked for it to be calculated to get the orange chicken.
Okay. All right. Which would also answer the question of why there are those refrigerated trucks over at the Maui forensic facility behind a wall, because obviously there are more people than that were lost in the fire, more than the 97. And they've got to go somewhere. Again, not to be indelicate, but we're trying to get to the bottom of this. So this is pretty crazy. I wanted to tell you something else I found out from, again, Civil Beat, and I think this is crazy. The police will not reveal the names of the dead until after notifying relatives. So if you've got homeless people that don't have anybody listed as next of kin, they, in theory, can never release those names,
No.
which is
Right.
insane. They're hiding behind a numbers game.
It's hiding behind the numbers game. They don't want to look bad, and they don't want to. Tourism is huge here. I mean, we get that, but really, tourism brings in the majority of, like what I was saying, those July numbers, 294,000 people.
Right.
That generated $623 million for the month of July. So we're talking huge amounts of money and huge amount of people coming, people leaving, and also people who own property, having Airbnbs and whatnot,
Right.
renting their property. They don't want to scare people away. That's my guess. I think they're just afraid of losing. It's so awful, the cash cow. They don't, they want people to come and still visit. That's why they were quickly turned it around when the locals were the ones saying, give us time. And then the government said, please come, which both are true, but.
Right. And I don't, believe me, I understand tourists are a mixed blessing. It's when I lived in Nashville, we had tourists in the country music industry, and we called them tour-ons, and we had, because they were wandering around down on Music Row. But the reality is, people bring their money with them, and they spend money in your community, just as they do anywhere that tourism exists. But it's kind of a pain in the ass. It's a mixed blessing. So yeah, I don't think there's any crime in saying that. And I know when we were in Hawaii. And I had relatives there. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to them in decades, but it's kind of a pain in the ass to have people come over and say, wow, we have stuff like this in the United States. Right. Because they always do that. Yeah. So yeah, I get it. So yeah, we're not being insensitive. It's just a fact of life. But as far as the tourists go, if you think about this, it wouldn't be tough for law enforcement to track down the manifests of the airplanes that have left, get the names of the people, and call them and say, "You make it home okay?" I mean,
then they would have to claim them. They would have to show fault, show that something bad happened.
Right.
Right. But if someone doesn't. Like you said, the homeless person, if someone doesn't claim that homeless person, it's just an unfortunate soul. They can do a quiet burial. They have their DNA in the database. They can, if someone does claim them, they can let them know. But it's, kind of, as the governor put, I thought kind of harshly, they want to move forward. But these islands are about history. They're not about so much going forward. It's about honoring the past. So he's stealing people's opportunity to mourn and also respect the ones who passed by saying to move forward does not respect, the people. So, they want to know. They want to know who. Okay, I think there was almost 600 staff. How many teachers passed? There were 3,000 children. Were there any teachers? Hospitals, they didn't evacuate? There were no warnings or anything. Hospitals, did they know? Were there issues? There's almost 10 hospitals and clinics. Adult care centers. There's, I think, 3 or 4. They need time. Did they get the time they needed? So really, there's a lot of digging people need to do. And I don't know that number, especially 97 is insulting, but
it seems like it.
From the reports I'm hearing, it could be even higher. And like you said, there's 3,800 in those refrigerated trucks. That might be 1 or 2 of them. And there were 5 on that lot.
Right. Well, I can hear the argument from the other side saying, well, all this takes time and people, et cetera. There are 1,000 FEMA workers there, right? I mean, they came in but let's just say 500 of them, however many there are hundreds of them. they were there enough to go through the residences that were burned. And the number that I saw about the residences that were burned, it was like 2,000. Was it 2,000 residents? 86% of 2,000 structures burned were residences. So that's a significant number.
Right.
And they were going through them. So again, we should be able to go to each home and say, all right, so-and-so lived here. Where are they? So-and-so lived here. Where are they?
Right. And yeah, everyone's got a cell phone.
Yeah. It's far too much confusion for it to be the way it is and for it to be the year 2023, because it's a little crazy.
You're absolutely right. I think we did a lot better when we on the milk carton. I mean,
right? No kidding. No kidding. All right, let's move on to the banks. The banks that you sent this, so they're going to pause mortgage payments to homeowners.
Yeah, some
homeowners.
Yeah, I guess the plan was the governor is giving $30,000 to, I believe, there's 8,000 people, and $30,000 cash money to get people back on their feet. And then the ones who don't qualify for whatever reason for the cash money will go to the Red Cross. They can apply for help. And I think it's generous. I think what the banks are doing are they're waiting to see who's going to take some of that money. Also, Governor Green, which there's so many question marks, but he found $20 million of quote unquote COVID money, which I believe is the CARES Act money, that they didn't use. And he's also offering some of this as well to the population to get them back on track. So I think with all the funding I think these banks are holding out to see if they're going to get some of that money from the from the subsidy that they're offering. So not all of them are being as generous. I think the local banks are cooperating, but we have other banks that came from the mainland, and I don't think they're all participating in this. So I think they're just waiting to see if they're going to get paid for the house. All
right. So 8,000 people, and you said 30,000 per person per house, or whatever it is. So that's $240 million that they're going to distribute. Sounds like. Right. And you know what? If it is COVID money, I mean, I can't think of a better way to use it than for this. Given that that's just a drop in the bucket as to what we're sending to Ukraine as well. And Green, he was, you're familiar with the YouTube account, Hawaii Real Estate, right?
Yes.
I like that guy. I don't know much about him, but he seems like he's a straight shooter. So,
Eric West.
Yeah. What do you know about him? Have you heard anything through the Coconut Wireless over there about the Eric West?
No. He also went a little quiet. I haven't heard anything really new from his channel. He was a real estate agent, so I'm not sure. He was actually dropped. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but he was dropped from his real estate company. It sounded like in a passionate comment, said something about his company, and I believe they parted ways. So he might be in flux with finding a new company that will insure him and everything that he can sell houses for. So that might have been a reason why I went quiet, or maybe he's feeling a little pressure from all of this. Because he was very vocal.
Well, and this is from September 25th, so today is the 29th, 4 days ago.
Okay.
I'm going to play a little bit of this, and part of it is the governor over there making some statements about the fires. So here we go.
And the fires that came, they came to us in the form of a fire hurricane. Winds were 74 miles per hour on the tail end of a hurricane and swept through our town of Lahaina in 17 minutes.
And what I'm going to cover in this video is talking about the conspiracy theory that is associated with world events when they don't make any sense, and trying to discredit those individuals that are presenting what they're seeing with their camera, or they're presenting facts. So everything I'm going to talk about in this video is a fact.
All right, and that was from, like I said, Monday. Eric took umbrage with what the governor was saying about it going through the town in 17 minutes, because I think it was longer than that. It wasn't a 17-minute fire.
Depends on which one. There were actually 4 fires that day. There was one in the morning that they discovered around 6:30, and then about 3:30 there was a call from the electric company. They spotted another fire, which I believe turned into that afternoon fire. The night before is when the people saw the sparks from the power poles going down and the wires being cut. So that also sparked a fire. So, and then there was another fire up in up country in Kula. So there was a lot of fires going on that day. I think the main two, the Lahaina, there was the one in the morning, the one in the afternoon. That I think they're speaking about. It gets a little like it's not even reported, but the National Guard, which is part of the federal government, actually dropped water on the morning fire. They did the bucket scoop and they dropped it on the water, but there's no reports of them doing that for the second fire. So if it did move that quickly, I don't know if, because the National Guardman, the Master General, I think is his title. I apologize, I don't know his title. But he was at one of the conferences and he was saying that they didn't have time to regroup. It moved too quickly. That was his statement. So I don't know, maybe it did move that quickly, but that seems irregular, and especially since they were able to drop water just that morning before.
Right. And I know they still have not technically, because the second fire I know was the one that swept through Lahaina, not the first, but second. Yeah. And they still haven't discovered, or they still haven't explained, at least if they have discovered, what the cause of that fire was. And the power company saying it wasn't them because their lines were de-energized.
Isn't that interesting? The power company, and they actually just had a congressional hearing yesterday, and they're talking about this, and Congress isn't happy with their answers. But it turns out they are kind of pushing back, and they are saying that the power lines were turned off because of the morning fire. But then where did the spark come from the afternoon fire? It must have come from the morning fire, and it wasn't extinguished properly. But the afternoon fire, it had to come from something. And there's high grass, and they're also not saying, but the BlackRock and Vanguard, and also State Street, they own the land as well. So they didn't tend to that high grass on their land, and they own stock in the electric company. So it's like a double fault, but they don't want to claim.
I wonder if the reason, and I just thought of this, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I wonder if part of the reason for people like the president and Congress people, the bigwigs, didn't come over to Maui initially right off because they didn't want too much attention focused on it. Because all of the mainstream media obviously would have followed them, and they didn't. They were probably the local government probably requested we don't want a lot of light shown on this until we know what's going on. Which under normal circumstances, okay, you know what, I can. But the fact that these people have exposed themselves as criminals and people who don't have anybody's interest at heart except their own, then it's not okay.
I agree with what you're saying. I think it's a little bit of both, because Biden did actually come up with $95 million and sent it to Hawaii, but he sent it to Hawaiian Electric Company, the HECO, to upgrade their grid. Not the people, not the homeless, not the hungry, not the lost, not even funeral services, not even any. It was just for the electric company only. So it's like they want, and I don't want to accuse, but it's like they want the worst scenario. They want the worst case. I think I sent you the picture of the lines being down. They were wrapped around cars. But the police denied that they had the blockades. Then they said that the blockades were for the down lines. But just like you said, and just like they admitted in the congressional hearing, the lines were down. The lines were not hot.
De-energized,
So,
yeah.
de-energized. Thank you. So why would the police be turning people around away from? And that's what their claim for the safety of the public. But then they turn them back to the fire. I think they wanted the worst case scenario.
It sucks to think that. It really does. But they've really given us no choice but to think that way. And that's the problem.
When people are making reports days after saying the people who refused the police and found other ways out are the ones who survived. So basically, the ones who pushed back and didn't listen to the authorities lived.
Which, again, doesn't surprise somebody like me, but that's not the way it should be, obviously. But it's a good lesson in don't depend on the government to, have your best interest at heart, because they don't. The next thing I wanted to get to, this people have been doing their own recovery. I know there are at least 480 dead here in Maui, and I don't understand why. They're not saying that. The morgues have run out of body bags, needed to ship more in from the mainland. I do know they ran out of body bags by the first or second night and had to ship some in from the mainland. Who said that? Do you know?
It was another YouTube channel. Oh gosh, what is the name of it? I apologize. I don't
That's
have
all right.
it.
It's okay.
Um,
And don't worry about it. We can research it. But if it was from another journalist over there, citizen journalist, and that's fine. Again, it's people can do their own research, and we saw the refrigerated trucks, like you pointed out. So there's something going on. We again just don't know what it is. And if there's only 97 people dead. And only, what they say, what's the latest figure? 66 missing? So 97 and 66. Went down to what?
41. It went down to 41.
So 97 plus 41 is 130 some odd. Have they had any funerals for anyone yet?
The locals did, and I think in the mornings they do kind of blessings, but the locals did kind of a mourning process. But no, I haven't heard of any actual funerals.
Okay.
No.
All right. So I'm again, it's math. I'm not being insensitive, but trying to figure out if you've got that many trucks and what's going in the trucks if you've only got basically 100 or if you've got 97 dead people. You don't need 5 trucks for that. Let's see here. The next thing up. This is the Jeffrey Stephen demands comprehensive investigation into the fire tragedy. What do you know about this guy? Do you know anything about him or what his story is?
Well, I was looking it up. I think this is one of the, the royal families, or they have a connection to the monarchy, and he is
House of Jarrett.
part of the House of Jarrett, which is and they've actually sued the state. I think their last case was just last year against the governor. But so he's the real reason I brought this up is because in his statement he speaks on the land, and you can hear it, asking why the EPA are sifting through their things, putting them in barrels and sending them to the mainland before anyone can go through them. And the disrespect of having the Good Samaritan purse coming through and picking and choosing the items that are that they can actually make out into, like
People's belongings.
silverware
Oh, okay.
or jewelry.
All right.
Yeah, they're asking why are these things being picked through, and it's not the owners. So they're not respecting the property, they're not respecting the land, and they're the only leaving ashes for the owners to go through after.
Let's listen to a little
So
bit of what he has to
Yeah.
say here so we can.
Jeffrey Stephen of the House of Jarrett. Now you put a face with a name. I am the one that sues this group, and I'm holding you accountable. And the reason being, legislation will not bring back the dead nor the harm. There are hundreds of people that are not allowed onto the property, except strangers through the EPA are sifting through their sacred property and sacred ground, and they are not being investigated. This same material is then removed from the site and supposedly being sent to the mainland. That should be of high concern to you, because of this chamber, who addressed this same issue in 2018, is allowing people from out of our country, the nation of Hawaii, or the state of Hawaii, to abscond this information, because I guarantee you, none of you know exactly what's responsible for this fire.
That's wild. And the fact that they are taking it, we've seen the videos of them going, of the FEMA workers going through the stuff in the burned out yards. Before the residents are even allowed back in there. And then the covering, what they do was a vinyl something, right? They put some hardener over the ash. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah.
What they did?
Well, they claim that it is a biodegradable spray that goes over the land to keep the ash from because they're worried about contamination. They're also worried about any kind of toxins. They're still talking about toxins and hazardous materials. And so they don't want people to just going through and even stepping on the ash and tracking it around or moving it around. And so they're making them wear booties and the PPE and masks. But they're also saying that they need like a tour guide, someone to help them sift through if they do decide to sift through. But from what Green said, almost quoting, he said, this is a time to mourn and cry. So it's really, he's not even really saying for people to go through. It's just to go through and say goodbye. I have a problem with that.
Go through. Is he saying go? Is he saying go through these areas because there are still people, in theory, the remains, the ashes, the bones of people in those areas? Is that what he's trying? Is that what he means? What does he mean?
I think he mentioned like propane chemicals. I've heard other people testify that I think it's benzene, that they think it's an actual, like there's a fisherman and he's concerned about actually, he said there's no place for him to even rinse off. So I don't know if he does like underwater dives or anything, but he says he's covered in this toxic chemical. So I'm wondering what that chemical is that he's even referring to. But they did mention like propane, but not every home has gas stoves. Not every home had an outdoor grill. I don't understand the huge concern with propane.
Right. And you know what they did? There was a water advisory a couple of weeks ago, and they were saying benzene was in the water. But then they said, no, benzene's not in the water. I mean, they lifted it a couple of days later, and it's hinky reporting, and quite frankly, the people who are in charge of environmental safety, whatever that means, the people in the government, don't seem to have a firm handle on anything whatsoever. That's the way it appears anyway.
Right. I think it's actually that the TNT that they discovered, I forget the chemical name for it, but when another name for it, they found out was TNT. I think it's that. Now they won't, they haven't commented on that officially, because then people ask, where did this come from?
Right.
If there's TNT in the water, that's new. Otherwise, people would have been sick with this toxin before that. So where did it come from? I suspect there is some sort of weaponized something that happened that day, because any match, when it's lit, it becomes a fire, but it needs to be struck, and it needs to be struck on that hard surface, and it needs to have an accelerant on the end.
Right.
There has to be, it has to be that full. So I think there was a match lit on that day that caused this.
You're absolutely right. And then something that fed it, obviously, there was a lot of dry grass. There was a lot of kindling, so to speak. But the benzene thing, I wonder, because down in like Key West, there are at least I know of one missile silo down there in Key West that they try to disguise. It looks like a big hill in the middle of nowhere. But I wonder what was over there on Maui, because that there's some government facility, there's something there that's part of why the United States wanted the Hawaiian Islands to begin with, because of their strategic location. So there's something there. And I wonder, that's just, again, nature abhors a vacuum. So I'm just throwing this out there. Did that have any part in this disaster at all? And I don't know.
I think there is, and also the plans because Governor Green just spoke to the UN and said that we are going to be like Maui's going to be like a flagship for this idea of this green, plan that he's going through. So with the cities, and to get more electric cars. I don't know if this was a desperate attempt to keep this on track, but he wants that Build Back Better. And how can you have a Build Back Better if there's nothing being built?
Right. Yeah. No, so great point. Great point.
So now they can start building back better.
And here's the real shame in the fact that you and I are having this discussion to begin with is good, because, who knows if we're right, we're wrong, but we're at least having a discussion. And the reason that it's so important to talk about stuff like this is because we know now, after the past few years, we know definitively that the government and those in charge lie to us every stinking day. And, then they try to call us conspiracy theorists because we suspect something weird happened in the case of this fire. But you've already proven that you lie to us. What are you lying about here? They brought this on themselves.
In fact, they keep underestimating how smart we are. Mm-hmm. We, especially we're so far away here. I'm on Oahu, but all these island chains, we're really disconnected. Okay, the cell phones. That's what Eric West, I believe, was talking about. Mm-hmm. They couldn't get a call out. Why? The whole island wasn't out, just Lahaina.
Yeah.
So are people supposed to accept that we don't have proper cell service on just that area? So they're expecting people to accept it. Oh, okay, they didn't have cell service. The towers went down, but that's not how things work. We're smart. We know that East Maui and Central Maui still had cell power service. Mm-hmm. In fact, some people who escaped, when they got to Central, you have it on their kula, when they got around the island and they got cell service, they were shocked. They were, I can call. I can let people know I'm okay.
Right.
It was just in Lahaina that it was, but they expect us to go, oh, okay, it didn't, we don't have service, so it's okay. No, we're going to ask questions. We're going to call you on your stuff.
Yeah, you're right. They don't realize, but and maybe the reason they don't give people who question everything like us the credit that we, I think, deserve, because I think if nothing else, we're curious, and we can add two and two together. Because again, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, and I've realized that the older I've gotten. But I can tell when something ain't right, and you can tell when something ain't right, and a lot of people out there can tell when something ain't right. And there's a lot of this ain't right happening with the and like the cell towers. Did none of them? And this was a story at Wireless Estimator. I think you sent this to me. I think maybe not. Anyway, bottom line is, don't cell towers have generator backups? I mean,
Yes.
I would think that they would, just in case there is a power outage. If they don't, that's not real bright. So
Well, yeah, they do. They have backups, and then also the 5G. Remember, 5G went up. Was it 2001? So those are supercharged. People don't realize 5G is a monster, mega monster, and it would take a lot to take that mega monster down.
right. We thought. Remember at the beginning of COVID, we thought that a lot of it was because of 5G, the crazy videos coming out of China when people acting crazy. It was like, it's 5G,
Right.
getting all up in them.
Right.
No, it's COVID.
Right.
Not sure which is worse. Well, all right. So did we cover everything? I mean, I think we did. Anything else on your list that I missed?
Let's see. I think there was the school buses
Yes.
at the airport. Not to beat a dead horse. Uh, I can't say enough. I can't say it enough. It's an island, so the buses don't disappear. A big yellow school bus doesn't disappear. So
Right.
the picture that you're showing now are the 4 mini or short buses that were remaining after the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a question about that because Starkey Farmstead, I think that's the channel on YouTube,
Yep.
she was saying that there were buses found at the airport.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
she found 4 mini buses at the airport, and that's what was left in the lot. So it makes me question, did someone use those buses and drive people, the remaining 4, to
Right.
the airport? Who were the lucky ones that got the ride to the airport, 40-minute drive? And then also, they only hold 15 to 30 people per bus.
Right. Right.
So it was a small group, and like we discussed, 294,000 people in the month of July were there. So a week before the fire, and let's say 1% were in Lahaina. That's still almost 3,000 people. That's
Mm-hmm.
not even the 16 buses in the lot that done. Like
Yeah.
I just have questions.
Well, yeah, and again, it's those people. If they rode the buses to the airport, it's not difficult. At least it doesn't seem like it's difficult for the people like at the FBI, et cetera, to come up with a list of everybody who left that airport on
Right.
this day, on that day. There's a list of them. So we've got the list. They found people from January 6th, years later, without a list.
Right.
So
Right.
there's a list there at the airport, and we should know exactly how many people left, and we're not residents of. It's crazy. Everything, it does not add up, and they haven't even, because usually, when I say that, they've tried to explain the number of dead and the number of missing, but they've done such a horrible job of it that no one. I mean, 2,000 to 15 to 166 to 42 to 97. It's all over the place, which at best makes them seem like idiots who can't add.
Right. Yes, and that's the worst. I think they're okay with that worst case scenario. Like, we might have flubbed the numbers, and if you listen to Green, gosh, that guy. But if you listen to
Yeah.
Green, he will say things like, "My heart is breaking 97 times. My heart is breaking 115 times," and it's insulting
Yeah.
because yeah, so it's just so much drama. It's
Hmm.
and he's a doctor. He's a doctor, and he was a lieutenant governor prior, so he's a politician.
Is
To
he
me, it feels like
is he from Hawaii?
no, no. Oh Lord, where is he from? I want to say like Boston, or he's from the mainland. He
And
lives on the Big Island.
I'm sorry I interrupted you. What you wanted to say about him? He's a politician and
Oh, he's a doctor and a politician. So to me, it feels like he is not being true to his distinction of doctor, because doctor is a caregiver,
right.
but a politician, it has to like care for large masses, and so they can be a little distant and cold. But for some reason, it's like he's just phony baloney all the way through. Even as a doctor, and he was like, and he loves being on television. He's always being interviewed. He was
Hmm.
the COVID ambassador, so he was just always on TV. We couldn't get away from the guy. But I noticed when he was being interviewed from Face the Nation, he was actually being honest. The local one, he was saying, "We're doing our best, and just let the government come through, and we'll help you. Don't worry, we'll help you." And then when they asked them about the children, when they asked him about the dead, he said many children are going. It's going to be many children because they were home, and it's going to be their kapuna, their grandparents who were with them if they weren't alone. He was more honest with the people who weren't local. And so that's what just makes me feel like he's phony baloney. Just he's yeah. So
Typical.
the number game. Don't want to look bad, and I still believe the agenda is to reclaim the land and rebuild it the way he sees it needs to be rebuilt.
Yeah, and again, going way back to the beginning of this, he was one of the first people who came out and said, the government may just acquire that land so that it can't be. Shame on these outside investors who want to come in. We may just buy them. Remember that? He's like,
Right.
yeah, he let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah. So sorry, I got excited.
No, please.
There might be another angle. I noticed that there was a lawsuit by the actual, they have a blood connection to the hierarchy, the monarchy, and they put a lawsuit about 24 years ago. Let's see, what is it? I had it written down. It's the Homestead Act. Oh, the Hawaiian Home Commission Act of 1920 is the act, and it says it's to protect and improve the lives of Native Hawaiians, and they actually sued the government, the U.S. government, and they won. And they were supposed to have a payout. Do you know when the payout was going to be?
How much?
This month, September. And do you know how much money they won?
How much?
$328 million.
Really? Really?
Yes. Yes. So they won the lawsuit, and they were just waiting for the final, I don't know, deliberations or something that they have to do. But it was supposed to be a payout September this month.
Wow. I
Yeah.
wonder, we'll keep an eye on this and see what happens because, again, nothing would surprise me at this point. That this may actually have played a role in this whole thing. Wow.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. It's so it all boils down to money and also the sovereignty, because like we were talking about what is his name, Stephen Jeffries, or Jeffrey Stevens.
Yep.
He is a representative of what used to be kings and queens. So it takes the power away from the U.S. government. It takes the power away from Green to even have him stand there. But if the land is gone, the people are gone, it just leaves the two high landowners in for Maui is the state of Hawaii and the federal government. Those are the two that own the most land.
Wow.
Not the people.
Wow. It's again, it's sad, but it's true. If you follow the money, you generally find the reason for most things happening. But I think we covered it all for this time.
I think so. I was trying to go through my cheat sheet, and I just want to say thank you too for your patience with me as well, because this is not my forte, and I have to take these cleansing breaths.
All right, and besides, it's Ron's fault anyway.
The First Amendment lives here. Watch and listen at thedailymojo.com.